In terms of wealth inequality in recent years, South Africa has been pretty tame. The Netherlands, by contrast, is the only country on Earth that is more unequal than the world itself.
So, we can't all be experts in reading statistics, but if you're going to advertise your channel as Economics Explained, please try to have a basic grasp on your subject. I'm genuinely unsure if this is propaganda, if it's bait, or if it's just sheer incompetence. So what this dude is talking about here is the Gini Coefficient, basically a measurement system for wealth or income inequality. 0 means that everyone makes exactly the same amount of money, while 1 means that all the wealth or income in the country is held by one person. In practice, a country rarely goes above 0.4 or below 0.2, and nations that do generally enter the cool zone where you get massive civil unrest. So EE, Economics Explained, cites the World Bank as his main source, but there's several issues with his source. For one, as should be on screen right now, from the World Bank's own site, the Netherlands consistently places in the 0.2 to 0.3 range. Secondly, there is no 2019 report as of this video's making, and so I sought out to find where he actually got his data from, which is a site called World Population Review, which agreed with his take. So then I sought out where they got their data, which was from the CIA's own website, which goes completely against their data and agrees with the World Bank report. So my only conclusion is either that some really bad math was employed, or that this data was simply fabricated. I mean, listen, if your report says that the US is the most economically equal country, or that Sweden is somehow more unequal than Brazil, I'm going to be a little suspicious of your statistics.
Similar policies to the ones that have been commonplace in the Netherlands for decades are being proposed by politicians in places like the United States as a way to curb the issue of wealth inequality. But if we look at the results, it doesn't look like they'll do that at all.
You're wrong, Mario!
Still, how does he explain these perceived inequalities?
Your net worth can be negative. For example, someone with huge student loan debts that doesn't own a house or a car or has minimal savings might have a negative net worth. Now in the Netherlands, this isn't so much of an issue. Schooling is heavily subsidised, but that doesn't mean that people don't take on other types of debt. In fact, they seek out debt on an even larger scale, through a home loan. Now to viewers in most countries, getting a home loan requires saving up a deposit so that you own a portion of the property. Most banks around the world would like you to put at least 20% or at a bare minimum 5% down so that you have skin in the game and will be more likely to pay back that mortgage. This means that if you own a home, even if you have a big mortgage on it, you still probably have a positive net worth because your house is an asset and it is worth more than the liability of the home loan. So as long as you don't have any other debts or the value of the property hasn't depreciated, you should be in the green. This is not the case in the Netherlands though, where borrowers can, and in fact are, encouraged to borrow over 100% of the value of their home as a mortgage. The National Mortgage Guarantee is a government program that ensures bank loans on homes, so if the borrower doesn't repay the bank and the bank can't make all of the money it needs back from repossessing the home, oh well, it can just get a check from the government for the difference, essentially making home loans completely risk-free. This is actually accelerated by the fact that mortgage repayments in the Netherlands are tax deductible. What that means is that if you earn 100,000 euros in a year, but you are paying 40,000 euros in interest to the bank on your home loan, you would only pay tax as if you were earning 60,000 euros.
What he fails to mention is the National Mortgage Guarantee and tax deductions only applies to the home you reside in, thus meaning first-time buyers and the poor see proportionately larger benefits and help them gain property, one of the most certain tools to help uplift a country's poorer residents. So what's his next justification?
The money in the Netherlands is old money. The people that are rich are, to be honest, not that rich. Not compared to American, Chinese or Russian billionaires anyway. But if we were to look at the nation's wealthiest person, Charlene de Cavallo Heineken, we can learn a lot about the nature of wealth in the country. This lady is 66 years old and is surprise surprise in the beer business, although she didn't found the company, neither did her father or his father, and in fact even her great-grandfather didn't actually found the Heineken brand as we know it today. He simply convinced his already wealthy parents to buy a brewery with the family fortune that he just slapped his name on. That family fortune dated back to the Dutch East India Company. What this means is that income taxes will do absolutely nothing to control this wealth. Income? This family hasn't earned an income since Napoleon was in diapers.
Well, shit. We can't use taxes to help fix that inequality. At least if you ignore estate, property, land, luxury, or business taxes, I suppose. The assumption that the only tax that can be levied on these people is income is kind of a flawed basis from the get-go. And on top of this, he only looks at the wealthiest person in the Netherlands, when most of the billionaires below her are television or e-commerce moguls, things that I doubt, quote, haven't had an income since Napoleon. Don't believe me? The list of Dutch billionaires, along with every other source I've quoted, is available in the description below. So it's pretty evident that this guy, like most economics nerds, is trying to make a taxes secretly bad argument, as this for them tends to be the only time they have to deal with having their value taken from them, as they generally don't have to worry about wage theft. But speaking of theft, however, he does strike upon an accidental revelation near the end of the video.
I would much rather be in the bottom 10% of the Netherlands than the bottom 10% of Ethiopia, which is comparatively a far more equal country by Gini Coefficient metrics. In fact, I would rather be in the bottom 10% of the Netherlands than the top 10% of Ethiopia. But that goes to show that inequality doesn't always cause issues, so long as there are equitable systems in place to make sure that everyone genuinely has the ability to rise up, and that comfort, safety, and the well-being of average people is not sacrificed in the name of the profits for a few.
So why are states like Ethiopia poor while the Netherlands wealthy? As it turns out, history, wealth, and business do not happen in a bubble. Why was the Netherlands able to invest in e-commerce and not its former colony Indonesia? Because up until the 60s, the Dutch could develop their domestic infrastructure, while Indonesia, along with all other former colonies, was under the thumb of its ruler and forced into developing their infrastructure solely for the extraction of resources, in the case of Indonesia, rubber, palm oil, and other resources. How does Heineken make its money? Through export of domestic beer, yes, but also through the partial control of production of foreign markets such as Mexico and India. For a nation can only grow its wealth when money generated within the state stays within the country. And even today, the legacy of colonial business practices sees a purposeful model of ensuring money generated within the global south does not stay there. So remember that when looking at inequality, whether domestic or international, understand that the free market has a vested interest in exacerbating and perpetuating the problem, and it is oftentimes up to the state or the people who must directly intervene to break this cycle. So I don't think Economics Explained is a malicious actor, but it is infuriating to see economists routinely refuse to integrate a holistic perspective and ignoring or misappropriating historical factors when looking at an economic analysis. This has been Bardic Interrogation. Go yell at your mayor.